Right. Well, kia ora. My name's Stephen Moe, and I'm a partner at Perryfield Lawyers. And today we're joined by Paul Owens, who's a partner in our property team, and Judith Bowen, who's a senior associate in our property team as well. Thanks for joining me.
No problem.
So, Paul, just turning to you first. We live in unprecedented times, and just to set the scene, we're recording this on the 31st of March. And we've kind of been seeing the news about COVID-19, and I think quite a few people are wondering, what does this mean for property sale and purchases? Can you just give us an update, or what's going on?
Yeah, there's a couple of sort of aspects to that, I guess, Steve, in that there's a lot of people who had existing contracts in place leading up to COVID-19 rising to level 4, and a lot of those were due to settle over this 4-week period and beyond. So there's implications for those existing transactions, and also implications for anyone who is looking at properties as well and trying to decide how they whether they put an offer in and wanting to take that next step to buy. And it's become a sort of different landscape pretty much overnight, really, as to how we deal now with property transactions in this changed environment, which hopefully doesn't stay this way for too long.
So Paul, just dealing with the first category there, you've got a contract that's in place and it was due to settle. What are some of the obstacles that mean that's going to be difficult? And what would be your advice around those?
Yeah, the first one, and probably the big one that we've come across is people buying and selling residential properties where the vendor is actually still in the property. So you've got situations where they now can't move out of the house. They can't actually provide vacant possession because they're in lockdown. So, and that's difficult as well. They can't get movers to come in and move their gear out. And on the other side, the purchasers actually can't move in as well. So at the moment, the New Zealand Law Society has put out some guidelines about how best to deal with that. And their recommendation is that we move settlement dates to 10 working days after the COVID level drops to level 2.
Okay.
So when things are freed up enough to be able to let people start moving around freely again and have movers come in and help and those sorts of things. So that's one option the Law Society has recommended, but certainly we have been talking with all of our clients around what the best approach is with that, because that may not necessarily be the best approach. And I know, for instance, a lot of vendors have been able to move out of their houses before the settlement has taken place. So does that necessarily mean that settlement should be deferred if they can give vacant possession? It's a sort of case-by-case situation, and so it's certainly worth talking with your lawyer about what the best approach is there for your specific situation. So,
and that I guess raises the point. We've done a few of these videos, and it really comes back to each specific context, doesn't it? And what the contract says, what the timing is, the unique situation. Judith, I'm just thinking from your perspective. I imagine one of the difficulties is that normally you would have clients coming in to sign things, and that's a lot more difficult. Is there any guidance or thoughts about that?
Yeah, so it definitely does make it a little bit more difficult, but what we can do for most documents is we can do video calls. So like a Zoom call or a FaceTime or something like that. Your lawyer would send you the documents, you'd print them out. Your lawyer would call you and explain them over the video call, and then watch you sign, and they'd send them back to you, to your lawyer, and then witness and things like that. So most documents that's working well for. We're having to, with KiwiSave applications and things like that, where there are statutory declarations, we're just having to do a bit more paperwork around them and check that each provider is comfortable with the way things are being witnessed at the moment. So each specific document, just talk with your lawyer about it, and they'll work with the different providers, the different banks and things like that to make sure that all the documents can get back. So at this stage, everything still seems to be able to be signed, just in a different way. So, but just needing to allow a little bit more time for things like that.
That's helpful. And is that something that's different from the past? Like normally you would have had people come in and done this in person, right? Is this a concession given the times that we're in?
Yeah, so specifically statutory declarations, they usually always have to, well, they do have to be done in person, but the Law Society has come out with some guidance with how we might be able to get around that at this stage, just just for this time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're definitely learning how to do things differently and adapt given the circumstances.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How an event like this really shapes the way we do business.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what we go back to, won't it? Like what maybe things will change if we
Exactly.
realize this is actually pretty efficient and fairly safe.
Yes.
Paul, just coming back to you and thinking about people, the second category that you mentioned, people are looking to enter into, or they found their dream property. This is it. They want it. What would be some of your thoughts for someone like that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And there's a number of sort of factors, and Judith might want to jump in here as well. But certainly, it's probably the two key things you look at with any contract you're entering into is your due diligence. What sort of things you want to investigate, and what sort of things you want to cover off. And you really want to be getting to a point where yes, this property is the property I want, and I'm good with finance. I've ticked off all the boxes. I know this property is a good buy. There's no hidden issues. And then, and so what sort of time frame do you need now to be able to get into that position? And then secondly, the settlement time frame. You can go unconditional on a property, but we don't actually know when this COVID level is going to change to be able to allow you to be able to move in. So those are sort of the two things, again, to be sort of thinking about. One of the big impediments, I think, with your due diligence time frame is the building inspection. Especially for properties in Christchurch that have been, or Canterbury, which have ridden through the earthquakes. It's a brave person, I think, that would buy a property without getting a building inspection report, unless it's a newer property. And of course, a building inspector now can't access a property. So you've got to build in time frames to allow you to be able to work through those conditions and get the reports you need. And Judith, I think you had an issue with finance the other day, didn't you too?
Yes.
And yeah.
So given what's happening with people's jobs and things at the moment, and it being a bit uncertain, in some cases banks are saying, well, we need to just wait a little bit before we can approve your finance to see what's going to happen with your job. Are your hours going to be reduced? Are you going to be made redundant? And particular areas of work such as pilots, understand that the banks are being pretty reluctant to do any new lending for certain areas at the moment. So it would just pay to check with your bank or your broker how long are you actually going to need for your finance clause to be able to satisfy it, given what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful. Thank you both. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover or mention?
One other thing is just if your settlement is going to go ahead, one thing that clients have been asking us about if they're purchasing is how can I do my pre-settlement inspection? So how can I check that there's nothing wrong with the house since I contracted to buy it? So there are a couple of ways that you could get around this. One would be doing a video call with the vendor and getting the vendor to take you on a tour and ask them to show you behind the couch and things like that. So that's one option. Another option it would be agreeing that a certain amount of money, say $5,000, is withheld in the purchaser's lawyer's trust account on settlement until the COVID level lockdown has changed from level 4 and the purchaser can move in and just check that there are no issues. And if there's no issues, then that $5,000 could be released to the vendor. So that could be another way of getting around it and just keeping everyone safe.
Right.
Yeah. And $5,000, that would sort of resolve probably 95% of pre-settlement inspection issues, wouldn't it? I think. Most of them are in the hundreds normally, but even now and again you get a bigger one. But
Well, this has been really helpful. Thank you both, because I think there's a lot of confusion right now because there's so much uncertainty about what's happening. But that's given us some good guidance if you're both in the process of buying a property, and also if you're in the process of thinking about buying a property, and equally if you're the other side selling the property. So thank you very much to both of you. We've got a lot of resources on our website. So if you're interested in other videos like this, check out perryfield.com. We've put up a lot of articles and information. So feel free to check those out. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks. See ya.